Hey everybody, good morning. Welcome to the Morning Devo with Bowo. It is November 27th and it's almost Thanksgiving time. So for a lot of people, today is going to be their Thanksgiving, which is going to be cool. And we're excited to have a celebration today. So that should be very, very cool. And with that, we get to go through the Bible because that's what we do, just walk through the Bible, just go through it verse by verse, book by book, and just kind of rolling through it, seeing kind of how God's working in the world. We're in the book of Ezekiel. We're in a pretty gnarly chapter 38. And you could always check out the archives at my YouTube channel. Just type in my name, Bo Willette. So that's how you kind of get to my page on YouTube, and you can subscribe to it. You could hit the playlist, look through the different books of the Bible that I've gone through. I started with the New Testament, went through that. Now I'm in the Old Testament. I grew up not around the Bible, so it's fun to get in it, and it certainly has changed life in so many ways. Okay, Ezekiel in Babylon, talking to the Jewish people that have been taken captivity. And there's all these messages of accountability. that Yahweh is going to hold people accountable. And he's going to hold them accountable specifically not only for how they lived, but also how they treated Israel. So really interesting. Now, some of the harshest words to Israel have come from Yahweh, meaning Yahweh hasn't pulled any punches with Israel, and he really has let them know kind of what's going on with them in their heart. And he's told them that they're, stubborn and they're stiff-necked and they're many other things, that all their work is like filthy rags. I mean, all kinds of things. And that, hey, because, they haven't wanted Yahweh, that they would be out of the land. That land is Yahweh's, and Yahweh can give it to whomever he wants. But he's entered into a covenant with the patriarchs, if you will, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and he's going to hold to their promises. So there's all this restoration as well that is prophesied through Ezekiel and Jeremiah and Isaiah to the nation, saying, hey, even though you're going to get out of here, you're going to get out of the land, you're going to come back too, and you're going to prosper, and you're going to actually produce fruit. And the land's going to be something that's going to be envious. Other people are going to want it. They're going to be jealous and envious, but you're going to be like a byword to people. People are going to call you names. It's going to be really, and it sounds like today, right? And by the way, we do pray for the Palestinians. We pray for the Israelis. And for some peace, right? We saw that there's a peace agreement that's in Lebanon, so that area will hopefully have some peace for Thanksgiving, and or what we call Thanksgiving. But to them it'll be Thanksgiving, just maybe no rockets, no bombs. So we want to pray for the good. We want to hope for the good, right? Love believes all things, hopes all things. And we certainly want to do that with what's going on over there right now. But we see that the Bible's super relevant, right? We really are just speaking into today's world when we read about these prophecies concerning Israel. Now, this is an interesting one, because sometimes we think of all the prophecies of accountability. You might have heard them as prophecies of judgment on the nations. And Jesus spoke of this, that there would be a judgment of the nations by him, actually, that there would be a future judgment of the nations. Usually we think of just nations that surround Israel, because that makes sense, right? Israel is usually threatened by those that are immediately right there. But we get something different in Ezekiel 38, which kind of is convicting to all of us, I think. It says, "This is another message that came to me from the Lord. Son of man, turn and face Gog, the land of Magog, the prince who rules over the nations of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him." Okay, so this is a prophecy against the prince of a particular nation, one of Meshech and Tubal. Now, if you do some research on this, you're going to find it's a land from the north. It's not really that close to Israel, per se. Meaning it's not super far, but it's not just immediate. It's not right there. And it says, "Give him this message from the sovereign Lord. Gog, I am your enemy. Hey, prince, I'm your enemy. I will turn you around and put hooks in your jaws to lead you out with your whole army, your horses and charioteers in full armor, and a great horde armed with shields and swords. Persia, Ethiopia, Libya will join you." Interesting. Kind of the nation. So this Meshech and Tubal up north is going to hang out with the Persians, Ethiopians, the Libyans, and they will join them. They'll be like a little bit of a team, if you will, a team of players. Now, a lot of people equate Meshech and Tubal with the area of Russia, southern Russia. And there's some really cool books on there. I remember Pastor Chuck Missler writing a book just simply about this topic. But there's many, many different ideas and different books that are written about this, more technical for sure. But here you have this kind of Russian, Persia, the Persian people, Iran, right? And then you have Ethiopia and Libya. So you have this kind of surrounding area, an area that certainly has been influenced by the Ottoman Empire. And this area has been, it says they will have hooks in them. And Meshach and Tubal and the prince will have a hook in the army, in a sense, with the prince, and move. God's going to move that government, move that military in a direction that it sounds like they maybe don't really want to go, but they kind of are maybe forced. And it says, hey, with all their weapons, all the army, everything, it says Gomer and all its armies will also join, along with the armies of Beth Togarmah from the distant north and many others. So you got this area that you got people that are closer to Israel, and then you got people that are really far away. But there's a prince that's really focused on, and it says, hey, I'm against you, and I'm going to put a hook in you, and I'm going to drag you. Now, I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty radical, and that doesn't sound too fun, right? But you know what? Yahweh says, I'm going to move you in a way that's according to my will. Now, this kind of tells me something. Is maybe I have a problem with the way God is sovereign. Sometimes, like, in my life, I've complained about the sovereignty of God. I don't know if you ever have. Why, God, did you do that? Why did you allow this? Why did you allow that? Why did you do it this way? If God, you are all powerful, why do you do this? Why don't you do this? That kind of idea. It's hard for me to surrender to God's sovereignty. And, I guess what's interesting about this kind of complaint that most of us humans have done, if you think about it, is what it is it's we think we can kind of do better, probably. That's really what it stems down to. God, I don't think you're doing things just. I think I can do things better. But you know what? Really, do we really think that? Look at our world. Do we really think the sovereignty of human beings, meaning us doing what we want to do, that's been good, or that we do good? Maybe we don't do too good, with all of our, in a sense, sovereignty. Who are we to complain to God? So I find God's sovereignty at, putting a hook in your nose, bringing you, dragging the whole army. See what happens. It says, get ready, be prepared. Keep all the armies around you mobilized and take command of them. A long time from now, you will be called into action. A long time. Meaning Ezekiel's prophesying, he says, a long time from now, that army, along with this group of people, other people. Isn't that interesting? I mean, if we put it in today's vernacular, right? Geography. Hey, Ezekiel, a long time from now, Russia and Iran and Northern Africa, is going to kind of come against Israel. I mean, isn't that interesting? I mean, that's weird. Like, wow. It sounds so specific. And it says, a long time from now, you'll be called into action. In a distant future, you will swoop down on the land of Israel, which will be enjoying peace after recovering from war and after its people have returned from many lands to the mountains of Israel. Okay, so people are back in Israel. So Israel is a country once again. It's no longer decimated. And it seems to have just gone through a war. And it's kind of at a relative peace. And then it says, and after this, And it says, and you will know, you and all your allies, a vast and awesome army will roll down on them like a storm and cover the land like a cloud. Man, an army will come against Israel like massively. And it says, this is what the sovereign Lord says. At that time, evil thoughts will come to your mind, and you will devise a wicked scheme. And you will say, Israel is an unprotected land filled with unwalled villages. At that time, they're going to feel, it's going to seem like it's at peace. They're going to kind of let their guard down. And I will march against her and destroy these people who live in such confidence. That's what they're going to say. Oh, we're going to get them. And I will go to those formerly desolate cities that are now filled with people who have returned from exile in many nations, and I will capture vast amounts of plunder, for the people are rich with livestock and other possessions now. They think the whole world revolves around them. But Sheba and Dedan and the merchants of Tarshish will ask, do you really think the armies you have gathered can rob them of silver and gold? Do you think that you can drive away their livestock and seize their goods and carry off plunder? There's going to be these different talks with different nations. It sounds like even like maybe Dedan, Saudi, or the Arabians. Is that going to be like this? Are they going to have these talks, these governmental talks about, hey, can you really take Israel right now? Is it really a good time? But they think like, yeah, it is a good time. We're going to go, I think this is the right time. So you can see these like talks that go on. Isn't it weird how that so long ago in the Bible, it seems so specific, right? That God says through Ezekiel to the Jewish people that are in captivity, hey, one day you're going to be back in the land, you're going to be flourishing. And by the way, this northern land, this northern king is going to, president, whoever, this guy, this leader is going to unite with the area of Persia, with the area of Libya and Ethiopia and this region. And we're going to have talks about coming into Israel and taking Israel and taking their wealth. It sounds, sometimes the Bible just sounds too good to be true, meaning it kind of like it decks the, what is it? Decks the cards, it stacks the cards all up in favor of it being legit. And this is the crazy thing about the Bible is like, it makes us make a decision on if I'm going to believe it or not. I might say, well, I don't want to believe it. I'm going to just run away from the Bible. I'm going to put it down. Hey, no more. Let's not go through it anymore. Or I'm going to go, you know what? This sounds pretty legit. Maybe I have to pay attention. Maybe I'm going to have to think that maybe I'm wrong. And there truly is a God who lives outside of time, matter, and space, who knows the end and the beginning, and who created the heavens and the earth, and to whom we are accountable to. Just maybe. But if that's true, and I am accountable to this deity, this creator, then I'm kind of in a pinch, right? Because I'm not doing what that God says to do. And this is the kind of, the crossroads that we have to come to in our life of like, who are we going to listen to? Who am I going to trust? Where am I going to go? And yeah, it is scary to come before the true and living God. There's no doubt about it. It is a scary thing to come before the true and living God, understanding his control and his sovereignty. But it's also the safest place you can go to. Because as I kind of say a lot, that just with that infinite righteousness that he also has an infinite grace and an infinite mercy. And the best thing any of us can do is to walk humbly, to say, Lord, I have sinned. I have disobeyed you. You are my creator, and I haven't acted according to your will, your ways. Lord, help me, in a sense, put a hook in my nose and move me, to salvation, to holiness, to righteousness. And God, answers those prayers amazingly in his mercy, in his grace. So here we see a hook in the nose, but it's a nose to come against Israel, of a vast army, of a group of allies. And it says, therefore, Son of Man, prophesy against Gog. Give him this message from the sovereign Lord. When my people are living in peace in their land, then you will rouse yourself. You will come from your homeland in the distant north with your vast cavalry and with your mighty army, and you will attack my people Israel. Okay, so it's pretty clear. My people Israel. That's what Yahweh says. Very clear. Israel, my people. We've seen this over and over in the scriptures. But it's just good to point out again. And it says at that time in the distant future, it says, I will bring you against everyone. I bring you against my land, and everyone watches, and my holiness will be displayed by what happens to you, Gog. Then all the nations will know that I am the Lord. So there's going to be such a mighty judgment on Gog that everybody knows that God is God. That's the idea of God's holiness, that God is different from everything, everybody. He is holy, separate. He is awesome, glorious, amazing, powerful, all that, that they will know that he is the Lord, that he is the true and living God. That's going to be known through this judgment. And it says, this is what the sovereign Lord asks. Are you the one I was talking about long ago when I announced through Israel's prophets that in the future I would bring you against my people? This is what the sovereign Lord says. When Gog invades the land of Israel, my fury will boil over. In my jealousy and blazing anger, I promise a mighty shaking in the land of Israel on that day. All living things, the fish in the sea, the birds in the sky, the animals of the field, the small animals that scurry along the ground, and all the people of the earth will quake in terror at my presence. Mountains will be thrown down, cliffs will crumble, walls will fall to the earth. I will summon the sword against you on all the hills of Israel, says the sovereign Lord. Your men will turn their swords against each other. I will punish you and your armies with disease and bloodshed. I will send torrential rain, hailstones, fire, and burning sulfur. In this way I will show my greatness and holiness, and I will make myself known to all the nations of the world. Then you will know that I am the Lord. So there is this interesting super duper judgment that takes place on Gog, and it does it in a way that really magnifies the holiness of God and the mightiness of God. And it will be a revealer to the nations, right? It says to all the nations of the world. So this will be something that is known worldwide. It is something that is seen worldwide. And that's interesting too. Why? Because back in the day, you couldn't see things, that happened in the region of the Middle East, unless it came to you on what? Stork? I don't know how the news would come to you. By whale? How would the news get to you? But nowadays, we all got what? We all got gadgets. We see things in real time, right? News in real time. Unbelievable. And this prophecy says the whole nations will see a miraculous judgment on Gog, a supernatural kind of judgment. Sulfur, all this kind of stuff happening, sounds very Sodom and Gomorrah-like, that will take place in this area of the Middle East, in Israel, as Gog has invaded the land of Israel. So, sometimes when we go through these kind of passages, all we could say a lot of times is, wow, is that, there's news and then there's news, right? Capital N news. Meaning there's news, CNN, Fox, but that's kind of the minor news, right? Where the Bible is actually the big N news. It gives you what's going to happen who the players are, and how radical it's going to be. How large it's going to be. Kind of the big pictures. So a lot of times in our days, we can have a lot of anxiety. But we have to remember that, God's working things out for Israel. And, just as Israel has been stubborn and stiff-necked, there's a lot that goes into, redeeming the nation of Israel. And maybe, we're kind of stubborn and stiff-necked too, and there's a lot that goes into the redeeming of us, right? God so loved the world, he sent his son. And that was radical. I've always remembered that worship song, and it kind of went something like this, that it talked about Jesus' death, that the gift is free, but it's not cheap. And I don't know if that makes sense, that the gift is free. Jesus, the gift of salvation is free, but it wasn't cheap. It wasn't without cost. There was pain involved and blood involved, a real sacrifice involved, to redeem us. And, when I look at Jesus and I look at his redemption for me, it gives me some peace in the day and lets me know, hey, God is in control and he knows how to save me. And he knows how to redeem people. He knows how to judge people. He knows how to do these things. And if he's the sovereign Lord, then maybe I don't have to judge, and maybe I don't have to do this thing. Maybe I don't have to go get that person. Maybe I don't have to be all emotional and go after people and be rebellious and be vengeful and be filled with hate. Maybe I can remember that, through reading this passage, is that God is the sovereign Lord. And he'll put hooks in people. He knows how to move things. He can move things, and obviously he's speaking the truth. I mean, what do we see today? We see the players playing, right? Yeah, players play, and that's what's happening. And so very cool, very interesting, right? So that's Ezekiel 38. Now, you can do some further Bible study on this chapter along with 39, and there's a lot to say about it. There's a lot of Bible study that has taken place on chapters 38 and 39. But just so we know there's going to be a future invasion of the land when Israel feels like it's at somewhat of a relative peace after a time of war. Now, obviously, that makes some sense even right now with the truce in Lebanon that just happened. And they're going to be we're going to see how this is going to play out. What's going to play out? How's it going to play out? Oh, man, exciting times, right? So, hey, that's the beauty of the Bible that I always found fascinating. Even when I started reading it when I was younger, not growing up in the church, but then starting to read the Bible, I was fascinated with this idea that, man, this God, it must be the true and living God. Why? Because this God knows what's going to happen, already lays it out. Wow, very cool. And that's the God who loves us, the God who has redeemed us, the God who is, atoned for our sins. And he'll see us through. Man, he will see us through. So you guys have a great day. Have a great, day before Thanksgiving. And if you're having your Thanksgiving today, have a good one, okay? You guys take care. Bless you. Bye-bye.